Hey, welcome back to another math video with Mrs. Hill. Today I'd like to show you how to classify numbers. We're going to look at different examples of numbers and how we can name them according to the category and characteristics that they have. Take a look up here. All rational numbers can be rewritten or written as terminating or repeating decimals. Decimals that neither terminate nor repeat, such as these numbers, are called irrational numbers. We've been working with these numbers all your lives. You have. Some of the numbers you haven't worked with yet, or you may not have worked with, are irrational numbers. Pi. I know you've heard of pi before, and you probably know it is 3.14. It's a measure we use when finding area and circumference of a circle. But you may not know that pi is actually irrational. It doesn't end. It has no end. This is just part of pi, a very small part of pi, 3.141592. The digits do not repeat and they do not end. It's called an irrational number. You may look at this and say, oh yeah, I see a pattern. There is a pattern. Look, 8.787787778. You can probably figure out what comes next. However, this is not a repeating decimal because the same block of digits does not repeat. Each time you're adding another 7. It looks like a repeating decimal, but it isn't. This is actually an irrational number. So, we are actually going to talk more about irrational numbers later on. What I'd like to talk to you today about is rational numbers. A rational number, make sure you're taking notes, you're writing down the definition, and I especially want you to copy this diagram into your notebook. And I'll read those numbers in case you can't see them. So a rational number is any number that can be expressed as a quotient, a over b, where a and b are integers and b is not equal to 0. If b was equal to 0, it would be undefined. So a rational number, generally, if you look in the box here, rational numbers are fractions and decimals. Mixed numbers, improper fractions, decimals that repeat, decimals that terminate, okay? What else do we have here? Inside these circles here, these concentric circles, we've got natural numbers. You've been working with natural numbers since you were probably in preschool. Natural numbers, and you can listen to my definitions and write them down. So a natural number is any number greater than 0, any whole number greater than 0. So 2, 8 are some examples. 1, 365. All of these are natural numbers. Then you've got the broader category of whole numbers. Whole numbers include all natural numbers and 0. So the only difference between a natural number and a whole number is this guy right here, 0. So whole numbers are any numbers 0 and above. Then we've got the larger blue circle, which encompasses whole numbers and natural numbers, but also you start to see negatives. Integers are any whole numbers that are positive and negative, and they include 0. So notice here that inside the blue circle is also the yellow circle. Inside the yellow circle is also this little lighter yellow circle. So all of these numbers are considered integers. All of these numbers are considered whole numbers. These are the only natural numbers. So inside you don't have 0 in here. You don't have any negatives in here. And then we've got rational numbers. So in the box here, you have your mixed numbers, other fractions, decimals. Decimals have to either terminate, meaning they end, or they repeat. We can tell them that, a certain group of numbers, one number repeats. Okay, so what are we going to do with them? We have to be able to look at a number and tell which category it falls into. We have to be able to identify the number. So I have the diagram again. Again, you can always pause the video, slow me down, repeat what I said, rewind. That's the great thing about these videos. But there's the diagram again, same thing, nothing changed. Now we're going to look at some examples and we're going to try to classify them. So I want you to copy these examples down. Our first number is -2 and 6/11. Well, this right away, you notice, is a mixed number. It's a fraction. which means it would fall, under this broad category here. So this is a rational number. The only way I can, let me write that on here for you. The only way I can classify that is that it is a rational number. Fractions and decimals are rational numbers. Okay? Notice they do not, there's a mixed number. It does not fall inside the blue circle or inside the yellow circle. It's only on the outside square of rational numbers. Okay, here we've got a decimal, 1.313313331. This might look familiar. This is actually an irrational number. You may have thought it was rational as a decimal, but it does not repeat or terminate. It looks like it's going to go on and on without the same group of numbers repeating. So this is an irrational number. Make sure you're writing these down in your notes. Okay, last number, 45. The number 45, I want you to think about what is the lowest category that you could put it in. It fits into integers, it's a positive or negative whole number, but it also fits into whole because it's a whole number. It also fits into natural because it's not zero. So this actually has many classifications. This is a natural number. It is also a whole number. It is also an integer, and therefore it's also rational. If we were to put 45 into our diagram, it would fit in here, which means it's also in the whole circle, which means it's also in the integer circle, which means it's also in the square of rational numbers. I hope that makes sense. All right, I'd like you to try classifying a few numbers for me. I'm going to move this up a little bit for you. Right, let me just move everything up. Everything up here. I'll move this diagram down here. Maybe you can see a little bit better. All right, pause the video and try to classify 0, 1 4/5. And this decimal over here, 1.4142135662. Unpause when you're finished and we'll go over those answers. All right, so let's check how you did in classifying these numbers. All right, 0. Where could we place that in our diagram? Remember, it's already there. 0 is part of the whole category. It is not a natural number. So the lowest point we can go with this is it is a whole number. But notice it's also in the blue circle. So it's also an integer. 0 is an integer. And that means it's also inside this broad category of rational numbers. All right, how'd you do? Sometimes it's tricky to get all of them. And it's often forgotten that just because a number fits into a smaller category, it also fits into one of these larger circles or categories as well. Okay, 1 4/5, a fraction, a mixed number. Where would we place that? It doesn't fit in any of these categories. A fraction would have to be inside the square here, but it doesn't fit any of these definitions. So this is simply just a rational number. All right, and the last one, this hopefully you saw, is an irrational number. It's irrational because even though it is a decimal, it has this dot, 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 which means it goes on and on and on. It does not end, it does not repeat. Okay, bring these notes, especially this diagram, with you tomorrow, and we will practice classifying numbers again then. See you then.